and you've had a decorated career working in different facets and different positions. Um, Now you got to work in developmental too, WWE developmental, OVW. What was that experience like?
It was great. So I did the Indies in the Northeast. Well, I was in college till about 2000, so it was from like 2000 to 2005, um, and was mostly managing, getting in work. If you can't bump and feed, if you can't, you know, be a draw or a main event wrestler, you got to be able to do everything else. And I that was another piece of advice that I learned early on from Joey and Mickey, and I was able to um, apply what I had learned once Mickey got signed to WWE and went to OVW. Um, I was kind of on my own, and I was fine with that because I had made the connections at that point. So I was able to work uh, anywhere from slow month would be 5 times a month, which is not great, but up to 10 times a month as a indie nobody. And after college, I had a choice between law school and moving to OVW on my own dime, no contract, no guarantees, nothing. And I took a risk and I went. And it was absolutely, I would not. It's like when I decided to get in the car and ride around with Joey and Christian and Mickey, like that changed the trajectory. Going to OVW absolutely changed the trajectory. I showed up, um, and the only people I knew obviously were Joey was down there starting M&M. He had moved on his own dime and got signed. Mickey was on a developmental deal, and I'd known a few other people, but not really to that extent. And so I started showing up and finally met Danny Davis, and I said, "Hey, Miss Davis, I'm here." Uh, like I'm here. Hi. Yeah. No, he didn't give a shit. Excuse my language. He didn't give a crap. But he was like, well, what can you do? And I was like, I was like, well, I manage. And he's like, you're not doing a damn physical thing in my ring. And I was like, okay, that's out. And he was wise to say that. So I was like, well, I can announce, I can commentate. I couldn't do that. I was lying. And but he was like, okay, you can ring announce the amateur shows. So Rip Rogers had a non-contract class. They called it the amateur show. So my first thing that I did when I got to call this play-by-play this show was I retitled it without asking the Future Talent Showcase. And they yoked me up afterwards. They're like, what the hell? Why did you rename it? And I go, who's paying to see amateurs? And right then, I think I got over with them. I think that made them go, oh, okay, he may get it. So then I started to do. I saw that there was sort of a void for that. There was a vacuum for that position. Dean Hill was there. Kenny Bolin was there. Al Snow was doing color. But as far as like they ran, OVW was running 5 times a week. There was OVW TV Wednesday. Then Rip Rogers started running Derby City Wrestling TV on Thursdays. There was Friday house shows, Saturday house shows, Sunday house shows. And when I say house shows, like a live event around the Kentuckiana area. And I saw that, there wasn't an announcer going to those. So I said, boom, I went right for it. So I became the live events MC, announcer, commentator, playing music, doing all that stuff. Then I started doing the voiceovers for OVW TV commercials. What that did was get me in the office with Danny Davis every Wednesday, right, for about an hour, which was advantageous because he got to know me. Then a good piece of advice that I taught myself was whenever I did something well on an opportunity, if I got an opportunity and I did well and somebody told me I did well, I'd ask for more opportunity. And that paid off. So I started as the voiceover guy, the commentator for the Rip Rogers shows, the Future Talent Showcase. I then asked to start calling the dark matches. OVW TV had these matches before TV and after they taped TV. Those went straight to the WWE office. So I started doing play-by-play on those. Then I became the ring announcer on OVW TV. Then I was a backstage correspondent and the ring announcer on OVW TV because I was short. There was no other short announcers. Dean Hill's about 6'3", 6'4". And he was a police officer. He had a life outside of this. I was just this. And then I earned my way, became the first third man at the booth, at the desk rather, on OVW TV between Kenny and Dean. And that was huge at the time for me. That was the goal, to, get my voice and get in front of WWE. And I started attending the Al Snow's contract class without a contract, especially on promo days. I became valuable for promo day because they needed a mean gene. They needed someone small to interview on. So I started creating value. And as I was creating value and getting other people over, I was getting over by getting other people over. And it took me 2.5 years. And it took me 2 years before WWE brought me up to audition me I got auditioned for the ECW backstage interviewer. And they brought me up for about 7 weeks to every Raw and SmackDown. And then they didn't call me for 6 months. and then I got the call in 2008, right after they left OVW to go to FCW and report there as Dusty Rhodes' assistant.
So you were part of OVW for 3 years.
2.5 years, yeah.
2.5 years, yeah. Well, tell me about when you're announcing, when you're doing the commentary, do you feel it's easier to be in a 3-man booth or a 2-man booth?
At this point, I can roll with whatever. What do I prefer? It depends on who's in the booth. It's funny when you start doing commentary. Like, commentary is one of those things. I feel like you either have it or you don't. It takes a long time to get good, very good. And I'm not saying there was a period where I was probably calling more matches than anyone in the wrestling business in about 2006, 2007. There's a period there. I was calling, I'm nearly certain, more matches than anyone else in the wrestling business. I'm talking, 8 matches on 8 to 10 matches on Wednesday, 8 matches Thursday, 8 matches Friday, 8 matches Saturday, 8 matches Sunday. Then practice Mondays, promo days Tuesdays, early TV meeting Wednesday, TV Wednesday night. It was wrestling.
It was a grind.
It was a grind. It was cool though, because that was what you wanted to do. You wanted to live like a wrestler. You wanted to, and you can't help but get good if you apply yourself. It's just reps. It's like anything that you want to do. The more times you do this show, Stanley, the better you get. And so as far as the 2-man, 3-man booth, I started, you start kind of like imitating people when you start out, and then you start to find your own voice. And once you find your own voice, then you become kind of selfish. And like, I look back on like being with Kenny and Dean, and like, they used to call me Steamroller because I would literally, like, I thought I had to fight for it. Like, I had to take it. And, that wasn't always necessarily the case. I think I was in a super competitive mindset at that time. As I've gotten older and become comfortable, it becomes more about the broadcast and lifting everybody. You know what I mean? As the play-by-play, you want your color guy to be great. If you have a third man who's running, analysis like a Mike Tenay, you want him to be great. So it kind of, I guess, if I had a gun to my head, it's like, which one do you want? I go 2-man, but I can roll with anything, and I think I can work to elevate the entire broadcast and show.
There's a